Welcome to Kara's Cures, where we explore the cutting edge of wellness. I'm Kara Sumplin. Today's episode is sponsored by the Center for Advanced Reproductive Services in Farmington. With so much conflicting information out there, how can women really feel and look their best in midlife, or anytime really after 40? Is hormone replacement therapy dangerous, or is it just what you need? There are so many questions, and many women are confused, which is why I've invited two women who are on a mission to help women master the midlife mayhem with cutting-edge wellness and science-backed strategies. Please welcome Claps and Kristin Johnson of Wise and Well. They're two friends who've refined the art and science of thriving in our midlife, both based on their personal experience and their clinical knowledge. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you know, I'm not even sure. There's so many questions about where to start. After I've been saying I was going to do this interview, I've already gotten lots of questions from the newsroom. Let's start there, though. Would you say there's just a lot of misinformation that women are getting about midlife in general and what we should be doing?
Unfortunately, yes. There's a lot of misinformation. And right now, Kara, I don't know if you realize, adding to that misinformation is the fact that the venture capital community sees menopausal women as sort of like an untapped income opportunity. So that's just making the whole kind of landscape a bit noisier out there. So many products and things are kind of being presented to us. So yes, absolutely. Noisier than ever.
Yeah, okay. So, and meaning that there's actually a financial interest. Some of the bigger funders are out there saying, let's push this, let's push that. So you really have to get through the weeds. I know both of you, talk a little bit about, each of you, if you want to start with Maria, talk a little bit about your training and your background and why you're really focused on making sure women have the right information.
Sure, I'll give you my training, but I want to tell you what preceded my training. And I was about 43 years old, and I started to feel the changes of perimenopause. Didn't quite know what it was at the time, but I knew that I wanted a doctor that was a little bit more integrative, holistic minded. So I trekked into New York City, saw a very well-known, multi-published doctor, and he started me on hormone replacement therapy and sleep drugs and a boatload of supplements. And I just knew at that point, I said, there just has to be something better than this. It was like learning through a fire hose, and it was just too much stuff and just very, very overwhelming. And it was at that point that I decided to go back to school to pursue certifications and to really get educated in menopausal health. And so I went back to school, and then even more importantly than school, I sought mentorship from doctors in clinical practice for decades around women's health and, you know, perimenopause and menopause specifically.
Okay, yeah, so you really just, it was a personal endeavor, but you got your clinical training that way. And Kristin, what about you?
Yeah, so I was pretty similar to Maria's experience, except I sort of had the opposite. I had a doctor tell me, you're too young, there's nothing going on here. She refused to even do the testing. So Maria got over-tested and a lot of information fed at her. I got nothing. And they pretty much told me, this is a little bit in your head. Suck it up. You're going to get through it. And that was it. And I didn't believe that. I knew something had to be different. I too was motivated to go back to school. I took more of a nutrition angle, and started working in that area. But then I started realizing that all of my clients that I was seeing were all midlife women. They were all struggling with very similar complaints and pretty much being told by their doctors, here's some anxiety medication, here's a sleeping drug, and go off and figure this out on your own. There's nothing wrong with you. And that just became not enough for me. So I sought further training like Maria. That's how we connected, and then also engaged in the mentorship with doctors. And it's just kind of become a passion of ours because we think we represent both ends of the spectrum, women who are, you know, sort of overserved with not very good information, and women who are completely gaslit and told that nothing's wrong.
Yeah, and your Instagram handle is Wise and Well, so that's where a lot of people are finding the information. That's actually where I find you. You're just putting out lots of snippets, and I do this all the time. I interview some of the greatest minds in wellness, and I found myself learning, and I'm of that age where things are like, okay, do I need to think about this? What do you do? There isn't really a protocol, it seems like. You just like figure it out. So let's talk about this. What are some of the most common dietary mistakes you're seeing women make in midlife?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is partly driven by this sort of social narrative that we have going on right now regarding environmentalism and other things. And the biggest thing that women do is they start to shift to what we consider to be fully plant-based eating, whether it's vegan, vegetarian, it doesn't really matter, but they shun nutrient dense animal products. And we understand why women do this. We're responding in large part to a changing body composition. And we can get into why that's happening with the hormones, but women suddenly see their kind of fat shifting, fat accumulating. And understandably, especially our generation, we've been told calories in, calories out, eat less, move more, you'll be fine. And oh, by the way, if you eat this sort of halo encompassed plant-based diet, you'll be even better off. And the problem is that we are rapidly losing muscle at this stage of life, and it's just going to get worse. We need to be triggering things in the body that will retain that muscle. And animal protein as part of the woman's diet is essential. And then the movement piece is another part. We, can talk about nutrition, but most of us engage in both this, deprivation food mindset and then over exercising. And that's another piece that we need to shift women out of. So it's, understandably, we're all a little vain and we don't want to be unhealthy and we don't want to look bad. So we shift our diet and nutrition. But unfortunately, the mainstream narrative is to shift it in a direction that actually ends up making things worse for most women.
And Maria, you say hormonally, it actually helps us more. We should be doing more weight training.
Oh, 100%. And lift as heavy as possible with proper form. And, many women are kind of a little timid to get into the gym. They think it's sort of like the bro area with the heavy weights, but heavy weights is really, without injuring yourself, which kind of is really important to know that as our hormones decline, particularly estrogen, we are more prone to injury. So that maybe we can speak about that at some point, but it is important. So if women do feel intimidated by that or unsure, it's really worthwhile to hire a trainer, even if it's for a few sessions.
So, well, let's talk about that. What exactly, how do you even know that you're going through this shift, and what is happening on the inside with your hormones, and what are some of the symptoms that would indicate it's time to start asking questions?
So we can talk about perimenopause, right? So peri, everyone knows, is geometry, right? Peri is around the time of menopause, and it's, average is about 4 years, but it can be longer. It could be a little bit shorter. And really the most common thing would be that kind of alerts a woman that she's in perimenopause is going to be her menstrual cycle changes. It either gets shorter or it gets longer. And what I mean by menstrual cycle is like time from one cycle to another. So if a woman had like a 28-day cycle on the regular, and she all of a sudden, oh my goodness, it's 30 days and it's 30 days and then it's 35 days. And then, oh, whoops, I got 2 periods in a month. That is perimenopause for sure. And then the other thing that women just tend to notice is they just don't feel like themselves. As Kristin likes to say, they feel like the goalposts are moving. If they were able to do certain things like, eat a certain way or exercise a certain way and like lose those 5 pounds that maybe they got over summer vacation, they aren't able to do that now. So we see changing body composition. We see a lot of mood issues, sleep issues, libido issues. Those are all pretty common for perimenopause.
Yeah. And then, so Kristin, I'll let you start. I mean, this is a loaded question, but what do we need to do about it first? Should you get tested for something?
Yeah, I mean, testing is difficult in perimenopause. And that, what's happening is we have this decline in progesterone happening that's affecting our ovulatory cycles and our changing menstrual cycle. But we have this really erratic estrogen pattern. And so women will go and they'll get tested and they'll be told your numbers look great. But the problem is that might be very different a week from now and definitely a month from now. And so testing is tough in perimenopause. We can pretty much assume once the cycle starts changing that you're there. And there's no need to sort of have this confirmation or finish line that you have to cross. So what we say to women is there's no reason to feel like you need to hit the brick wall before you start responding. There are other women, I was going to say that while the cycle changing can be relevant, someone like me, I had a Mirena IUD, so I didn't have a cycle. And so what I had was the mood changes and all these other things. So, you know, whether it's cycle changing or whether it's just feeling like you're kind of not the same person in your own skin, that's a sign to say, I need to start getting educated. And that's what we would say to the first thing women have to do. First of all, shift your mindset. This is not a place where you're stuck. It's not being happening to you, and it's not something you have to sort of white knuckle through. So mindset would be one, little grace with yourself. And then two, get educated. Find out what your options are, because we can address symptoms. We can protect long-term health. There are many implications of these declining hormones. And I think what we feel women are not being informed enough about is that it's not just a hot flash, because some women don't have hot flashes. So we want women to just really dig in and be educated, because this is where a woman is empowered when she's intelligent. And if we can help inform and educate, she's going to be able to make much better decisions for herself than just being at the whim of whatever doctor she happens to walk in an office and visit with.
How do you get educated? What's the best source? There's so much out there. I know you have one site. I'll give you a chance to, throw out your website and your Instagram handle. But other than that, what do we need to be doing?
I mean, there's some great books out there, we would say. So one that we really like for women, because it does bust that narrative that we talked about regarding the Women's Health Initiative and some bad studies that have sort of demonized HRT. So one of those would be Estrogen Matters. That is a wonderful book. There's a few other out there. I think where women need to be careful is anyone who's selling anything has an incentive to sort of direct what their learning is towards an outcome that will benefit the person. So, Estrogen Matters would be one. Sex, Lies, and Hormones would be another one. Maria, what do you think?
Safe Hormones, Smart Women.
Yeah.
Safe Hormones, Smart Women.
Yeah.
So let's talk about hormones. Maria, we can start with you. A lot of women may be fearful of hormone replacement therapy. They've heard it could cause cancer. They've heard they're not allowed to have it. Their doctor may have even told them this. What's your point of view?
Yeah, okay. So I like to kind of flip the narrative on its head. And Kristin and I can safely say for both of us that we both believe, according to the research we've done, and this applies to the great majority of women, not all women, but the great majority, sometimes even some who have been told no. And that is, Kara, we believe it is safer to age with hormone therapy than without it. So that's actually my view on hormone replacement therapy.
Yeah, and so what about traditional hormones versus bioidenticals? If this is new to you, it gets confusing. Like, well, how do I take that? Am I supposed to go stay on birth control, or do we use these creams? Do you buy it at the store? What is it?
So, yeah, so American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists believe that women transitioning through menopause can stay on their birth control until age 55. We see that as a massive problem. Okay, so that it disconnects her from her body. Okay, so birth control is an option. Unfortunately, that is offered to women in any stage of perimenopause, and unfortunately, then they just really never know when they go through menopause. So now they are 50 something, they come off, they do have an option for, hormone replacement therapy. The drug that was studied in the WHI was conjugated equine estrogen. That's still available. It's called Premarin. It is synthetic insofar as it's not human identical. So it's not bioidentical. Okay. Then we have FDA approved hormones like the patch, like oral progesterone, which is called Prometrium. And those are a better option that we think than Premarin for sure. Okay, so they are FDA approved bioidentical. And then we have the option to get compounded hormones. Those are usually creams, but they can be other things. They can be put in capsules, and they can be put in like lozenges that are typically called troches. But so I just want women to realize that when we're talking bioidentical, we are talking estradiol. We're not talking Premarin, because Premarin is going to be sort of like, again, a horse estrogen. That's not a bioidentical, well, not bioidentical to humans, bioidentical to horses. So this is where women go wrong. Bioidentical does not mean compounded. You can get bioidentical hormones that are FDA approved. So there's a whole, there's reasons why women would choose one, say bioidentical, FDA approved, and there's a reason why a woman would choose bioidentical compounded. And we take several weeks to kind of explain that to clients.
Okay, so I know it would be hard in just this forum, but would you start then? Most women have access to an OB-GYN and OB-GYN, and they would be able to prescribe something versus there's also naturopathic doctors that would, I guess, give a lot of supplements. Where should women start?
We would say that women need to start more towards that functional medicine approach. And, unfortunately, that's also become something of a marketing tag, right? We have these 3 letters that we'll sometimes see after doctors' names. The problem with starting with your gynecologist is, first of all, our medical system is set up to incentivize focusing on fertility and gynecology. That is not a midlife woman's concern. So as much as those doctors are highly skilled and incredibly important to certain phases within women's lives, they are not sitting with a toolbox that is curated for midlife. And that's part of the problem. So it's not that they're wrong or bad. It's just not their training. It's not their focus, and it's not what they're incentivized to do. So looking at someone in functional medicine, and we would take it one step further. If a woman really is concerned about her hormone loss and kind of this next chapter of life, which, let's be honest, for some of us, it's a third of our life. And for others, it's up to a half of our life that we would be living without hormones. We would say looking into an anti-aging specialist. They are frequently looking at the whole picture. Their concern is about avoiding the chronic diseases of aging. And they are a little bit more trained to understand women's needs when it comes to hormonal sufficiency as we get older.
So how would one find those? It's for those who are listening in Connecticut, it's not just a Google. I'll say I'll have here on Kara's Cures, we often interview Dr. Artemis Morris from the Artemis Wellness Center down in Milford. She's a functional practitioner. She's a naturopathic doctor. There's Whole Health in Avon. That's Dr. Stagg. But sometimes if you're with the naturopathic doctors, they also want to work with the other doctor because at least here in Connecticut, I know in other states it's different. Here in Connecticut, the naturopaths don't prescribe medicine.
Right. And that's every state is different, unfortunately. So we love naturopathic doctors. We think there's some phenomenal nurse practitioners out there who are educated and informed in this space. I think trying to focus on words like holistic, so they're looking at the whole body, functional, integrative, so they're going to use different tools and not just kind of focus down one sort of big pharma path. But I think those are great places to start. But truly, we would say women first need to understand their options before going to a doctor. And I know that sounds a little bit sort of reverse order, but if a woman understands what the available sort of spectrum of opportunities is, she can better identify what's going to work for her life, what's going to work for her goals. And then you can easily identify doctors that match your goals because you're going to see in their marketing materials, in maybe a discovery call interview with them, et cetera, are they using the same language and terms that you are concerned about?
Okay, so that would require getting a little educated first. So while we have this little bit of time together, maybe like the top 5 things. What do you want people to understand? And I know they can dive deeper in it with your course, but say if people are listening, I really want you to understand this before you go to the doctor.
Okay, so just before they go to the doctor, that there is synthetic hormones, Premarin, you probably want to stay away from. Again, Kristin and I always say if that's all we had available to us, that we would use that, but we have better things. And so if you go to a doctor who offers that, then you probably want to find another doctor. So I would say that's the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the other thing we would say is, hormones are not dangerous. If they were dangerous, you have to think back to anyone who's carried a baby. Our pregnancy is a time of, triple digits and 4 digits of hormone levels in our blood. We all came out of that just fine. And we didn't all develop cancer just because we had a baby and we had estradiol levels off the charts. So hormones are not scary and dangerous. Poorly designed hormones in an unhealthy body are a concern. And so that would be the third thing I would say is women, HRT, as wonderful as it is, it's not a magic pill. You need to dial in your health foundation. So if you're not sleeping, start there. If you're eating still a really standard American diet and your blood sugar's out of control or you have lipid issues, start to work on the nutritional piece. So basic health foundations. HRT is going to work best in a healthy host. So women, we need to kind of work on those things, and they're in our control. Maria and I like to say to clients, these are low-hanging fruit, right? We're not dependent upon a doctor for these things. So work on those basic things while you get educated, and then you're going to be ready to take off and soar with HRT.
A lot of women, one of the most common symptoms you hear about, hot flashes and moodiness. And you say those are actually easy, or at least the hot flashes are easy. So what's the advice for those?
Hot flashes are a big problem when women lose this kind of regulation between the hypothalamus, which is the brain, and the ovaries. So that kind of connection is just getting wobbly. And for the most part, for the vast majority of women, I would say probably within 2 weeks, if they are on the right dose, maybe even sooner, those hot flashes should stop. Now, if she's got a lot of stress and has another hormonal surge like cortisol, that can cause a hot flash. But yeah, the hot flashes are really, really fixable in the great majority of women. And for the great majority of women, it does require estrogen. Can we maybe get a little bit of remediation with some magnesium and some vitamin E? Yes, possibly, but it's not nearly as good as estrogen. And then you get all the other benefits of estrogen to your bone and your brain and things like that. So bones.
Yeah. So I saw a little thing. Yes, we're doing this on Zoom, so I saw a little notification that our meeting will end in 10 minutes. Yes, it will, but don't worry, we'll be off before then. And tell a little bit about. Well, let me ask you this first. If people are really experiencing low moods, I do think that is common, and it's hard to tell right now coming out of the pandemic. People have mental health challenges. Yeah. The first line of defense has been to say, let's try an SSRI. What would you recommend?
So we work with amino acids. So if you think about neurotransmitters, right, our dopamine, our serotonin, all these wonderful happy chemicals that our brain needs to kind of stay level and adjust to stress, those are all primarily made in the gut. We need sufficient substrates to create those neurotransmitter chemicals. That is why animal protein is another huge piece of the puzzle for women's health at this phase, is because we need certain amino acids that come from animal proteins. But there are some wonderful supplemental options out there. So we can take isolated amino acids and we can use them to help support serotonin production, dopamine production, catecholamines, all these different parts of the neurotransmitter chain that we need to really regulate mood. And we've seen women who've had phenomenal success with that. And we also have providers who will work with women to kind of get them off an SSRI if they're already on one, and slowly transition them into this sort of amino acid therapy, which can honestly be quite temporary. So it's not a lifelong curse that women are going to have to deal with on the mood piece. But, Kara, it's really hard at this time of life because we're women who are either kind of at the sunset stage of our careers, we've been caregivers, whether it's for our parents or partners or our kids. And so we have a lot pulling on us right now. And it's really difficult to put ourselves first, and really difficult to understand, like, is this my hormones, or am I just kind of a really cranky person? And so what we would say to midlife women is, there's a lot of opportunities here to sort of clear the noise, take care of yourself. You're going to do better by the other people in your life too. But the food piece, the amino acids, things like that, big pharma, in our opinion, is not the solution.
Okay. So amino acids, like supplements, right? And I know when you first went, Maria, to your doctor, you went to a fancy doctor in New York City and they gave you lots of supplements. And number one, those are expensive, but so you don't see the answer as just supplements either. So talk a little bit about somewhere in the middle of the road, like what we should be doing.
Yeah, well, so when you said, so what we can do for low mood, I quickly said hormones. And, I 100% agree, obviously, with Kristin as well, about amino acid therapy can be amazing. There are contraindications to it. So someone should not just start popping amino acids randomly. So I just want to say that. But here's the other thing. When I say hormones can help mood tremendously. And it doesn't mean that it's going to take care of 100% of things. Like women will need some hormone therapy and amino acid therapy and the protein, and movement and sunlight. Kind of raising my hand here. I need all of that stuff. But one of the things I want to explain is that when we get low estrogen, and there are periods of time in perimenopause when we are low estrogen, and then once we get into menopause, we are permanently low estrogen unless we do something about it, that drags down serotonin.
Yeah.
So it is no joke that we get into these low estrogen states and we have low mood. So again, hormones, amino acids, sunlight, movement, animal protein, healthy food, these are all extremely helpful. And I believe if women did those things, many of us would be able to avoid the big pharma drugs.
Okay. So in closing, let's just say a day in the life. What do you eat and how do you exercise for this phase of life? Something simple.
Oh, goodness. Okay. So today I had 2 sous vide eggs with turkey sausage and a side of some goat milk yogurt. I don't do great with cow dairy. And a little peanut butter protein powder. And that was after I had just spent an hour in the gym strength training. So I was kind of eating to, honor the stress that I had just put on my body. For lunch, I think I'm having some bacon wrapped chicken thighs. And for dinner tonight, we are having some balsamic marinated beef steak tips. So I had a lot of protein.
Okay. All right. Maria?
Yeah. So I had a smoothie with about 50 grams of protein in it. Not a lot of fruit. I don't think I put any in, and some avocado in it for some healthy fat. And then I actually also had 2 sous vide eggs, just like Kristin. We probably had the same exact thing. Because usually just a smoothie is not enough for me. I need to chew my food. For lunch, it'll be like a big salad and enough chicken in there to get to about, say, 35 grams of protein. And then dinner will probably be salmon and maybe a small baked potato with some butter. And yeah, I had a great gym session, and I tend to get a lot of just kind of movement in walking. It's not my movement to kind of shape body composition. It's more kind of to help like what's between my ears, my mood, and my mindset.
Right.
So that's my day.
So I see there's a theme: protein and weights.
Yes.
Protein and weights.
And I think one thing I'll say to women is that if they're worried about getting bulky, we are hormonally in a place in life where it is impossible to get bulky. If we were maybe in our 30s and we wanted to spend a lot of time in the gym, that would be one thing. But ladies in your 40s and 50s and beyond, you cannot get bulky unless you're doping. So do not worry about that. But you need the muscle to protect your bones, control inflammation, your immune system. Everything's dependent upon it.
And I know, Maria, you would agree with that. I'll give you, as we close here, a chance to let people, I know you work with women and you take them through this. So talk a little bit about how people can sign up to work with you one-on-one.
Yeah, I would first direct them to our Instagram. We like to be very education forward there. So that's, again, if they just type into the search bar on Instagram, Wise and Well, and then I'll let Kristin follow up.
Right. So we have our website, and you see that there, wiseandwell.me. We've got a wonderful program. We work in a hybrid situation where we help women with both the clinical testing, the education, and community, because that's a huge part of what women are lacking at this stage in life.
Thank you to both of you and everyone out there. I hope this is a lot of information, but it'll get you started. I appreciate you both being here.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you so much.
All right, everyone, have a great day and be well. And if this content inspired you and it was helpful, share it with your friends.